Well, hello everyone. TheOntarioGardener here with a Jumpstart Eco Guide. Eco is a game that is basically mining crafting, similar to Minecraft, voxel style. And the idea is that you can play single player or multiplayer, and you work together to defeat a meteor that is in the sky that will have impending doom within 30 real life days, or whatever you want to set it as. So the guide basically is going to be a jump start, like what do you do in the first hour, basically, of the game. And single player and multiplayer, they do differ slightly, but the initial little bit, everybody's going to be doing the exact same thing. So what we're going to do is jump right into it. And again, if I jump around between single player and multiplayer as far as what I say, a lot of it can be used both ways. When you load up your game, you're going to see this, and basically everything that's in this game that you see can all be built. This looks like it's composite. Looks like this is going to be possibly mortar stone, brick. This could be limestone. We should have some ashlar concrete, which is going to be in here. Ashlar stone. We have some metal. This is a railing that's off of one of the mortar stone or one of the limestones. You have trucks. And all these things that you see here can be made within this game. So to start your new game, you can choose, like, there are public servers, which you see here, that are public. Some people host ones, but again, if you want to go right into your own game, this is where you would be. And this is just going to be tutorial series. Now, there is an in-game tutorial which we will disable once we start playing, because I want to go over things that I want to go over. But when you start a new game, if you are the one that's playing single player, this is where you do your settings. If you're playing multiplayer, the way the game works is that if it's hosted on a server, the game will run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It will never stop. If it's being hosted on a server that could be someone's computer, or you have times where your group of your friends play, then obviously the game only runs when the game is opened either on a server or a computer elsewhere. It won't continue to run if the game is closed. So if you're playing single player, again, this is slightly different than multiplayer. But what this all means is that when you start playing, you have to gain experience to get stars, to get professions, etc., etc. So if you're playing on a server, the server will run continuously. You'll lose food continuously. You'll gain experience slightly continuously. We'll get into that in a minute. So, starting your basic game here, you can have a meteor turned off, impact 30 days, and basically if you don't destroy the meteor within 30 days, it will crash into your planet and wreak havoc, and then you have to kind of pick up the pieces. Again, this is just collaboration settings here. If you're playing by yourself, you want no collab. High collaboration would basically be a server-wide one that says if you have any more between, I don't know, 8 to 10 or more people, you probably want to have a high collaboration. All that basically does is it slows down how quickly your multipliers are. As you see, they just changed here. If you have no collaboration, they're quite small because you'll gain stars quicker. And then these things here are multipliers based on your collaboration settings. We're not going to go into this at all. We're just going to start a brand new game, and the first time it'll kind of take a bit to load up, unless you do a complete fresh, like you can load a brand new world with custom settings, which you have to actually change in your text files, which we're not going to go into in this tutorial. But basically, excuse me, we're going to load right in here, and we'll get started. Now, Eco is mostly more fun played multiplayer while we're loading in here, because you interact and you work with other people for the same goal. And as soon as we load in here, I'm going to go over some basic stuff about the game, and then we'll get into actually doing some actual in-game playing. This should be loading in any second here. And like I said, single player is a bit different, because with single player, you can skip ahead a day. You can sleep, quote-unquote sleep. It skips actually real-time days to move to the next day, so you can work on getting stars, etc., etc. Multiplayer, there is no sleeping, unless you have something set up that way where everybody has to sleep, but typically server-wide, you don't do this. Eco, even if you start your own game like I did, even if it's a private game, it still is hosted, quote-unquote, on a server. So technically, people could join you. It's not like, it's hard to explain. It's not like when you're playing Factorio, where it's hosted on your computer, and you have to open multiplayer up. It's just kind of, there's always a server. You're connecting to something. All right, we're going to load up here. In the beginning, it takes a bit of time, especially if you have some mods, and here we go. So we're just going to click right away on save. You can customize your person, everything, any color that you want, whatever you want, for lots of different things here. You click on it, and then you just basically choose what you want for various things. You could do male, female, or you could dress yourself up to be whatever you want to be. And then, we're just going to hit save and go right in. So here's the game. Now, the top left here, it has the tutorial. If you are brand new to the game, I suggest doing the tutorial. It covers things that I will not be covering in this tutorial, or this beginner's guide. Uh-oh, do we just freeze up here? There we go. It may take a bit for your game to catch up. And again, controls are... Ooh, come on. Your controls are pretty easy. I think I might actually have to turn my graphics down a bit. Mainly just because of... trying to record this with good settings here. But again, it's not a huge deal. You just apply it, you hit confirm. Again, if you're having performance issues, check there first. Now, when you first load up the game, this is what you see. We basically spawned in some wetlands near the beach over here. We have some birch trees, which are these ones, and we have some cedar trees. I'm sure there's some oak trees somewhere else. And again, you can change your own audio and video settings to fit your computer specs. You see how the trees in the background here are kind of washed out? It's because I have my rendering distance turned way low for better performance. Now, when you first load in, you have your backpack on the right. Then you can trick and drag these things wherever you want. Your mini map, the bottom right, here's your couple little tools, which we're not going to go into. This one, here's your chat window. If you're playing by yourself, basically you just hit C. Oops, sorry. Hit C, it turns the chat box off. Again, it basically just gives you information about the server, the days, how many, things have been taken, or population for various things, and you can go way into this very, very in-depth about this is a population currently on the server. As you plant things and take things, this goes away. If you deplete the population of a certain plant or a certain animal, more so the certain animal, they will not come back as far as I know, because there's a finite amount of animals. If you kill all the deer on the server, you will not have deer anymore. And I mean, typically that doesn't ever happen, but it can. Again, so that's your chat. So for this, we're just going to hit C just to close the chat off. Bottom here is your main taskbar. On the bottom left is you have your nutrition bar, which we'll get into that in a later video, what the importance of this is. But as of this update, the depth that we're playing on, you have balanced diet bonus, your variety bonus, tastiness bonuses. You have all these bonuses to your food. The objective is to have your carbs, protein, fat, and vitamins as balanced as you can. It doesn't matter what these numbers are, as long as they're close to being the same one. And then you have your multipliers down here based on tastiness bonus. You get bonuses for eating foods that you like, negative bonuses for eating foods you don't like. We're not going to go in depth with this. That'll be a different video. This one here, the bottom left, that's empty. This will be your housing score once we get into housing score. Here's your experience bars. Some of these things you can just turn off, by the way, if you don't want to have them on. I like having them on myself. Again, to get your mouse up, you hit tab, and then you hit tab again, and you can actually move the camera. So basically, these are your experience bars. Everybody starts off with self-improvement, and then here's how long it takes for the next star. So because we're playing with the settings I get another star in 43 minutes because we're playing no collaboration, because we're a single-player game. Here's going to be your base food score, and then here's your housing score again, which is 0. And here, this is where you go into your specialties. So when you first start off, everybody is going to have the opportunity to choose from the same two things, I think. One's going to be logging. The next one's going to be campfire cooking. These you can't do. Gathering is another basic profession. Hunting is another one. Mining is another one. These ones that have question marks aren't. These are more advanced ones. And then here, self-improvement. Everybody starts with self-improvement. Basically, it's just as you level up doing basic tasks, certain things, your calories will go down, and you'll have bonuses. You can read through these. You click this button, it tells you all the bonuses. And at level 3, at the end of level 3 and the end of level 6, you can choose talent choices. And this is for every profession, by the way. Some of them are good, some of them are kind of mediocre. But again, as you play up, once you hit level 4 and we hit level 7, or respectively level 3 and 6, you can unlock talents. And that's basically for every profession has these that give you bonuses. Now, a quick rundown of what these are is you have carpenter profession, which deals with wood, logging, carpentry, composites, paper milling. Paper milling is kind of an iffy one because it deals with wood, but it doesn't have much of a benefit to it. You can make bookshelves and you can make paper, which you can't even make bookshelves, can you, through this? You need paper to make bookshelves. Otherwise, paper doesn't have a huge need, but it is still useful for someone. Composites at level 4, carpentry is the next level. Again, some of these that are locked, you have to unlock these with research skill books using research table, which again we will cover later on. So you have campfire cooking. So everybody starts off with basic campfire cooking that can do the basic stuff. If you take campfire cooking, which would be level, well, the specialty, you can unlock. These are all the dishes that everybody can make in the beginning of the game. This is a lot of it has to do with fish. This has to do with random meat, different things that you find that you collect: tomatoes, corn, beets, etc., etc. Everybody can do this, no matter who you are. But what you can only start doing the more advanced things, which is a lot, which means better calories, better consumption, etc., etc. It gives you better nutrition, which makes your score go up quicker. So campfire cooking is a very good skill as well. Gathering. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I want to be a farmer. I want to go out and farm and collect things. Well, farming is what you take to plant crops and to make crops, make seeds that you then plant. Gathering is the profession that you want to take if you want to be the one gathering things in the wild, because you get bonuses, and then you basically, from here, level 1 bonus, you always get a calorie reduction bonus, and here you have a 40% yield bonus from level 1 compared to a 0% bonus at level 0. And then this is just obviously labor when you put labor in. 50%, 60%. Once you hit at level 7, you're getting 100% bonus yield. So if something yields 5, you're going to get 10. 2 equals 4, 4 equals 8, etc., etc. So gathering is a huge profession. Putting gathering with cooking, for example, is a really good thing early on to get some good foods. Again, if you're playing multiplayer server, you don't want to double up too much, especially in the beginning, but there is only certain professions that you want to take. If you're playing with, say, 10 people that are, good friends, and you're not doing things with auction houses and stuff, which again we'll cover a lot later on, explain to each other, say, okay, I want to be the cook for the server, okay, I want to be the miner, I want to be this, and then you basically come up with a plan, and then you execute it. But if you're playing on a public server or just with people who you may not know, or you might know some of them, or you like to have a free-for-all, you can pick whatever skill, whatever profession that you want. It doesn't matter if 3 people have gathering, you can tick gathering too. It doesn't matter. It may upset somebody saying, oh, I'm the gatherer for the server. Well, no, I'm allowed to do gathering too. So just keep that in mind. If you're playing public or with friends, you can choose whatever you want. It's not like one person does campfire cooking and it's locked. It doesn't work that way in this game. And campfire cooking, gathering, I cover on. Hunting is good because hunting is the most efficient way to get animal hides and also meat. It is quite good because it gives you calorie reduction and it gives you damage benefits, as well as fish traps, as well as fisheries, miscellaneous bonuses. You can get really close to some animals. Again, you just have to kind of play it out. Typically on a server, you don't need more than one hunter, one butcher, but hunting and butchery go hand in hand because you're hunting animals. You can then get yields, like you get so much more out of it if you're butchering it than putting the main meat, the main animal on a campfire, which is the purpose of these. Again, hunting is a base skill. It takes 0 experience for that. It takes a star. You can jump right into that. Mining is one where you're chopping. You're mining rocks, sandstone, limestone, making mortar stone eventually. And within this tree, you have advanced masonry, which gets into your higher tier stuff, which is going to be your ashlar stone stuff, which is your top tier housing items, which again, we're not covering in this video. This is quite late game stuff here, but it's also very good stuff later in the game, also for decoration. And then you can also, get into doing glass working, which basically using limestone and sand to make glass, which makes vases or vase, also makes glass panels, which is used in literally, look at all the things that if you hover over, if you're in something, anything that has a color to it, you can hover over glass, hover over this tells you what glass goes into. Goes into a laboratory, lumber doors, vases. It also goes into fiberglass. Fiberglass is going to go into all these modern tools. So every profession does trickle up to something that's needed in late game. Masonry is where you're making mortar stone in the beginning and also making your reinforced concrete later on in the game as a tier 3 material, which again we'll get into tiers a little bit later on. And pottery is where you make bricks and you make things like pots, signs, and bath fixtures as you level up as well. And then, so again, mining is typically one of the first ones you take. This you can't do. Smelting is where you're smelting iron. So mining and smelting go together. If you can find a good place that has iron, which again we'll cover later on. This is the basic stuff. Self-improvement everybody gets. And then the last one here is tailoring, which is very useful in the beginning because you're making cloth or fabrics which go into things. You make clothing. Some clothings have benefits to them. Some of them don't have benefits, other cosmetic. You can make big backpacks. You can make things like the washboard, which is good for housing scores. You get into doing rugs and sofas and all these things, wood curtains. And some of the things are for decoration only. Some of them are also for housing bonuses, like a couch futon gives you a 2.5 furnace rating, which is really, really good. And then all it takes is lumber, which is a tier 2 item, but again, not that hard to achieve. You have things like carpet recipes, lots of different decorative clothing. Again, if you're playing more of an RP role-playing server, one person wants to be the explorer, one person wants to be the chef hat, and it's just a fun thing, as well as making rugs, etc., etc., etc. So for me, either the way you start out is you figure out what you want to do. Do you want to be a gatherer and a cook? Do you want to be a miner? Do you want to do woodworking? Do you want to gather? Do you want to be a hunter? And you go from there. Regardless of what you choose, typically everybody starts off the same way. And you start off by having your tent right here. And what you got to do is you got to find a place to put your tent. So I think for my liking, we're kind of in a bad area. If you want to figure out where you are, you hit M. And M will pull up your map. You zoom out with your wheel. And this is a 2D map. You can turn this into a 3D map because the world is 3 dimensions. Looks like we have one continent here, and we have a huge... Oh, here we actually have a couple other continents. So the way these work is this is where you're going to find iron in the desert, which is this yellow color. You have places like warm forests, grasslands where a lot of food is made or grown, and here you have icelands, granite tops where you're going to find gold and copper. And then you have rainforest, which is going to be over here, which is typically where you find a lot of your coal and your clay for brickworking. And then each biome has different trees that are worth different values, that also have different looks. When you start getting into lumber, you can really start decorating with a lot, ceiba logs, birch logs, oak logs, etc., etc. And those are basically the biomes that you have. 2D is pretty good as well. It doesn't show topography very well. But again, this is typically, it looks like a Minecraft map. Similar idea. And we are, if you click on this, it's going to put us right here. So we're not really in a good spot, to be honest with you. But for now, we can just, let's find a spot over here. So the first thing you got to do is you have to put your tent down because you have no tools. You can't do anything without your tent. And the tent is highlighted by 4, these are what are called claims. You right click to put it. Now you're a resident of this. You can change residencies later on. We'll get into that. That's a lot later on. And this is what you get. You have a tiny stockpile. And then if you hit M again, it'll show you on the map where you are set up. And if you put it to your world layers to property, this is what you own. And you gain property by researching skill scrolls. Again, later on. So in here, you hit E, follow the on-screen things. You can turn all that stuff off, but you hit E to opens up your storage. So basically, when you start off, you can make a campfire, a tool bench, and a workbench. And you need all of these things. In your storage, it shows you what you have. You have basic food to start off with, and you have some basic tools to start off with. So we have something like a stone axe, a stone pickaxe, a hammer, which will be used for building, and then you have your food, and here's more claim flags, which again, we can get into this stuff a bit later on. You also have a shovel and you have a machete. And again, everything has a tooltip. You hover over it, you leave it for a second, it tells you what it is, durability, remaining durability, where you craft it, what it is, how you craft it. Like anything that has a color over the text, you can hover over it, except the craft time, of course, and it tells you what it is based on the wood tag, etc., etc. So first thing you do is you're going to start chopping trees. And we have some trees right here. These, I believe, these are cedar trees. And you're chopping them down. If you see in the bottom left of the corner of the screen, it has a 0 and an X across what's going up. It's because we don't have a scale that's useful for chopping wood. So what we're going to do is we're actually, for our first star, we're going to take logging. And you hit learn now. So what that automatically, you can do this too, but what that automatically does, it gives us a reduction in calories. It gives us a bonus damage bonus, or a damage, like your axe bonus as far as your power. It gives you labor efficiencies, which is, we'll get into in a minute here. This allows you to make hewn logs, which is a building material, level 1 building material. And you can also make small wood carts right off the bat by taking logging. And again, if you click on this, it shows you the other things. Basically in logging, you don't really unlock too many things. The next level thing is going to get into basic upgrades, which that's a whole nother can of worms. And as you level up by doing tasks that are related to logging, which are basically chopping trees and hewing logs or doing anything that's on this list, making any one of these gives you experience. So now if we look at our bottom left, as I'm chopping this up, oh, this is not, oh, because we had the initial one already. Basically what we're going to do is we have to collect all of these, dump these into our station here, left click on this, and we're going to go into our crafting menu, and we need to make a workbench. You click that, then you have to add labor. So me, I always hit Alt. You can hit Control, Shift, or Alt. We'll put in all the labor that you can, and there you go. Now, one thing that I did not mention that is very important is collecting food, because we have a little bit of food in the beginning, but you want to collect other food. So you want to run around and pick up various things. Anything that highlights green, you can pick up. Some things are not ripe enough. Other things are very ripe. Other things like these, you don't want to eat right away. You want to cook them. So as you run around, there's lots of food. We're basically, this is also cotton, which you can't eat, but you can use it for other things. This is camas, which you actually have to dig up. We're in a bad biome for food right now. And you run around. What I always do in the beginning of the game before I find a spot that I want to set up is all I do is run around and gather as much variety of food as I can. Some things won't be ripe, and it'll say it's not ripe enough. Other things will be ripe. So all you do is run around and basically hold your head to the ground, and you hit E to harvest something. If it's not ripe, it'll tell you it's not ripe. Like rice, you need to dig up. What else do we have? There's tons. We have beets here. So again, you get the gist of that. So when I start out, I'd run around first to figure out, I'd have a plan in place. I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but I want to cover as much basic stuff as I can in this opening video. Whoops. You have things that will attack you, like jaguars. They won't kill you, but they will take your calories away if you're not careful. So just keep that in mind as well. And as you see, we're actually cleaning up our debris. In the bottom left, it's giving us experience for doing this. There you go. And once we get our workbench built, it will also give us experience for making hewn logs. Because hewing logs is now part, well, not now, is part of the logging tree. It used to be part of the carpentry tree, but now it's part of the logging tree, which is actually really good, by the way. Now, if you're looking at our screen, the bottom left, we are like out of, I can't put that in there, we're out of food. So you right click on a piece of food and you eat it. And it gives you a bit of a bonus, but now, right now, our nutrition is all out of whack because tomatoes give you no fat. You have carbohydrates, proteins, fat, and vitamins. These give you none of that. These give you protein and fat. But again, if you cook these, you get so much more out of that. So what we got to do is we're going to grab our workbench to start off with. We're going to plop that down literally anywhere. If you're playing on a public server, you want to make sure you're placing things down within your, I actually can't put it in there, can I? Within your, I can put this here and put this in here. Within your claim. Because if it's not within your claim area here, and by getting more claims as you have these claim papers, you right click on the ground and it'll automatically claim the land. Red means it's claimed and it'll automatically join up. If you make a mistake, you left click and it unclaims it, and there you go, and you can claim it back by hitting right click. As long as you're placing adjacent ones, it'll all connect to the same deed. If you mess up, the easiest way is just unclaim things and then restart to go whichever way you want to go. Now, as I was saying, is you want to put down your workbench. Mine is within the claimed area, and you know that because when you hover over it with your, like if you face it up here, it tells you, it'll have your name and it'll tell you what it is. That means it's claimed. If it's outside of it, it'll just say workbench. So what we need to do at workbench is we need to make hewn logs. And because we don't have a carpentry table, we have no modifiers for this, which is kind of a bummer. Now, if you're looking at these, you say, okay, hewn logs, cool. You click on this and it tells you which logs you can make. You have hewn, hardwood, softwood. They all do the same exact thing. It's just you can have different textures of this. If you don't choose anything, it's going to pick the first one. And we actually have 45 wood here, so we're going to click this, hit 45, hit order, and then I'm out of food. Which means, guess what? We need to make a campfire. And we need rocks for campfires, which is a bummer as well, because we don't really have rocks, do we? Then I'm just going to be clicking on things. We need a bunch of rocks, 6 rocks. So the next thing you have to do would be making a campfire. So we need to find some rocks. And we don't really have any rocks around here, do we, that are exposed. So we have to run and find some. Again, like I said in the beginning of the video, is you have to go into the game with a little bit of a plan of what you want to do. Like, maybe not long term, but the first initial 1, 2, 3 skills. If you say, you know what, I want to go logging, carpentry, and then get into doing I don't know, something, another one later on, composites or lumbering or something, fine. But you want to pick a spot that has good trees. You want to pick a spot that's relatively flat-ish, which doesn't seem like there is much here. Maybe over here is more flat. And the reason why you want to do that is because here's a good spot for flatness, because you want to start planting trees to be able to harvest them. And trees grow like maybe every 4 days, 5 days, 8 days, depending on the type. And that's real in-game days. So if you're here, say you set up here, and you deplete all these trees without planting any, they will not grow. They will grow back in a sense that as you fell trees, new ones will pop up, but not the same amount. And they could die as soon as you hit them with something. They'll go away. So you got to be a little bit careful where you set up if you're doing carpentry. If you're doing mining, if you want to eventually go into the smelting route, go out here, because this is going to be mostly all sandstone underneath this desert sand, and then this is where you're going to find the majority of your iron, 15 or so levels below the surface. But if you just want to get mining just for limestone or eventually to get granite, go up in here in the mountains. Again, you have to kind of have a little bit of a plan. If you want to be a bit of a nomad and not really have a central spot, that's fine too, but you have to have your tent down before you can actually start doing anything, basically. If you wanted to get into doing your gathering profession, all you want to do is gather. Gathering is also goes hand in hand with farming, in the sense of when you gather things, you get seeds from some things, and you want to plant those seeds to be able to gather more. So you want to figure out where you plant things. Well, you hit environmental data, you hit it'd be under plant group, not plant group. You hit plant, you hit population, and you have yield potential. So you say, well, where do tomatoes grow? Well, there's an overlay for that. You go down to tomatoes, which is going to be yield potential, and this is where tomatoes will grow the best. The whiter it is, the better the spot. So right now on this map, there's very little places where tomatoes will actually grow very well. They'll grow on this island. This is a grassland island, I believe. A little bit here, and that's it. It's like, wow, this is a terrible map for that. What about huckleberries? Huckleberries are basically everywhere. Anywhere that's the whiter it is, or almost like the blue color, the better it's going to be. And you can do this for any type of food or any type of plant, but you can also do this for trees. You say, okay, well, where the birch is going to grow best? Well, along here. So again, if you're taking logging and you want to be replanting your trees, which you don't need farming for that. You can just get a hoe, till up land, and plant it. Anybody can do that. You want to go where it's white. Here's a good spot. It's the same island. Here's a spot. Here's a good spot. I guess it's the same island again. And that's for birch trees. If you want to go to ceiba leaves, you want to go to the rainforest. So use these overlays, and you can actually have these showing up in the game if you want, to show you exactly where to plant things and where to gather things from, which is a very helpful thing. Now, as we're going along here, we need to collect some items here. We have some hewn logs. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this, but this is where you need to start building. Again, I'm outside of my claim, but for tutorial purpose, go with that. If you hold down the F key, it gives you different building blocks. The more higher tier building block you have, the more variety you will have here. Right now, we have basic climbing, supports, which is a column. We have different roof types, thin walls, which are basically the wall you see in front of you. You have a window, grill, and you have a base cube, and you have a floor block. So you need to build things. And also, if you hold on F at the bottom here are different fill types. I always like doing this one, but you can't do lines with your basic tool. It won't let you do a line, so you have to do one at a time. Basically, you we don't actually have any in our inventory. What is the problem here? Oh, I know the problem is we don't have enough space in here, do we? Let me just swap that out, and let me just dump these over here. We don't have enough space. So again, if you have something in your hand, you can right click on the ground. And again, most things you hit by holding E. I think I can F. Yeah, so you can F onto line. Basically, you click a starting spot and you drag it out. When it turns red, you have not enough. Green, you're good to go. And this is basically how you build your first little hut. And you may say, well, why do I need to build a hut? Well, because as you progress through the game, you need to get into doing things like research, which is down here. Research table is what allows you to research different skill books, which we're going to go right back into that very quickly, because say you want to do carpentry, you need to unlock the skill book. Again, you hover over, it tells you what you need. So for this, you need to have 10, or how many? It doesn't, how many does it tell me I need, actually? It just says, then it doesn't tell you the amount. Usually it's 10, but again, it tells you need a dendrology research paper, and you make that in a research table. Now, the research table is the biggest thing that you need to get going immediately, in my opinion, and that has a room requirement. If you hover over it, it'll tell you right here your requirement is 25, everything's in meters, by the way, 25 meters cubed free in your room's volume. Basically, that means if you have a 3 by 3 by 3 interior space, that'll give you 27, which is fine for this, and you need to have a tier 1 average of 0.05. So that means half of the blocks need to be tier 1, which hewn logs and mortar stone are also tier 1. Now, again, you can make your first mortar stone by in the workbench as well. Again, we're going a little bit off topic here, but the basic gist of it is you want to build yourself a little hut that is minimum 5 by 5 by 4 high, including the roof, to put your research desk to start upgrading, researching, and going from there. So we covered the basic stuff. We didn't make a campfire yet because we have no. Let's try to see. Can we? I don't know if we can mine this. We can. All right. We're going to mine a bunch of this. I'm not sure how many rocks we actually need. This is what, shale, I think. If they're yellow blocks, you have to hit them again to break them up. I think this is enough to get started. I want to get the campfire going for this episode, and then we'll end it there. So let's go into here. We want to go... Actually, we can make a campfire in here, mind you. Well, yeah, we actually have it ready to go. So you have to go in here. We swap this for this. Oh, will not let me put that in. Uh-oh, that's not good. I think I have to just dump some of these out here. Not sure why it won't let me do that. Again, this is why you want to build bigger stockpiles. There we go. There we go, there we go, there we go. And we actually have 15 now, which is pretty good. You want to make sure you have the right tool selected, or you won't be able to do anything. And I'm going to click on... I'm going to go out this way a little bit. Again, these things are really in the way. There we go. And then let's go... Can I cut this down? I think I can with an axe, right? No, you need a... What do you need for this? I need my machete, I think. Machetes actually clear land very quickly. There we go. Now we can see what we're actually doing. Again, I'm just doing this as a quick demonstration. This is obviously not going to be big enough. But again, just to show you the gist of how to build, you right click and you drag. And this is not going to be big enough for what we need, of course. And again, but to start off with, you just want to do basic stuff. You just want a basic little house, a basic little shack with your research table, which you have to make, by the way, which is going to be down here, which you need plant fibers for. Which again, if you hover over this, it tells you where you get plant fibers from all of these plants here, basically by using your... Where's my scythe at? I don't have a scythe, do I? But you can, obviously, you can make a tool bench, which is going to be... Where's the tool? You have stockpiles, you have a tool bench. So to start off with, your first main things you need is you need a tool bench. You want to start getting a storage chest and a stockpile, because that's where you can put your items. Ignore carts for now. You want to get a research table up and running, and then you want to have enough hewn logs or mortar stone, depending on what profession you take, mining or hewing. It doesn't really matter that much in a sense, because it'll come later on, because you need to make a home that's minimum 5 by 5 by 5 exterior dimensions to be able to put your research table in. You research what you want, and then you go on up in there for that. And then the carpentry tables are good for other things. So there's tons of things in this game. Just starting out, literally your first hour, we're about 33 minutes into our first hour, and there's so much stuff that we have to cover yet, that we're not going to cover in this video, I should say. So we're going to grab all of this. I don't know if I actually have space for this. So I kind of dump this in here. Yes, the last thing I want to cover for today is going to be the campfire, because we need to make food. Now, as I said, anybody, we're out of power, so you can power it with wood, of course. Better would be coal, but you don't have coal literally right away when you start. You have to dig for it. Now, this is all the stuff like I told you in the beginning of the video. Anybody can make this basic food until you start getting down to required level 2 or higher. So we have wilted fiddleheads. You can right click, we can click order, and then we want to hit work. There you go. We have a couple tomatoes. And you want to have a varied diet. We have, what else do we have? A couple of. We can make charred mortar, which this is where if you choose mining and you want to make mortar stone, you have to do charred mortar in the beginning. That uses plant fibers, wood fibers, etc. Charred meat. We have no meat, but we have fish. So let's make a bunch of fish. Now the other thing with food is food will go bad. If you hover over it, it'll tell you your shelf life remaining. So later on, once you start... If you're a carpenter, you can make ice boxes. That's what will give you a better shelf life. So you don't want to make tons of food in the beginning or you shouldn't put it this way, you don't want to be collecting more food than you're going to be eating. And here we go. We should start having some of this ready to go. Oh, we have wilted fiddlehead. And again, you right click on it from here, or you can drag it into your inventory, and you hit tab and you right click on it, and it gives you nutrition. And you click on it again, it gives you nutrition. Now, the one benefit here is you have a tastiness bonus. As you eat things, some things will be very good for you. Some things will be delicious. Some things will be your favorite. You have one favorite and one least favorite of the game. And that could be anything. It could be something raw all the way up to one of the most expensive, one of the biggest things like an elk taco or like a meat pie. But here I have a 20% because I can't eat wilted fiddleheads anymore because it gives me a 20% reduction. Same thing with raw beets. So this is terrible for me, but you want to have things like pumpkins are good. Tomatoes, raw fish is not good. Do we have any fish cooking yet? I want to see if we can. And to switch this around, you basically just drag. I want to make some fish. And anyway, so as I was saying, is you have patience bonuses. So you don't want to eat things that are horrible. It won't kill you. It'll just reduce the bonus that you'll get from eating good food, delicious food. Okay food is stuff that you could eat that won't give you a benefit or a debuff. But if you needed to eat it to get your... Because right now my food is all out of whack, which typically in the beginning of the game you have very little protein or fat because you're collecting vegetables. Again, this is where cooking fish comes into play. Now we have 3 cooked fish. Now watch our bottom thing down here change as I eat the fish. Look at that. Look at that. We have a lot of protein because fish has a lot of protein in it. Has a little bit of fat. Right now we're needing fat, but there's not a lot of charred things that give you fat except charred meat, which you get. Where's the charred meat at? Charred meat here, that gives you fat, a lot of fat, and that's from any type of animal that you basically kill or you find laying around dead. And anybody can make a bow and arrow. Anybody can make arrows. You make all that stuff from your initial thing here. Well, actually, sorry, that is actually from your tool bench, which again, like I said, you want to make a tool bench. So we're going to end the episode here. This is basically this isn't quite an hour yet, but all this information I'm throwing at you will probably take you an hour to 2 to get underway. So when you first join a game, whether it's your own world or not, first thing that I would do is I would scout them. Let's turn all this off. I would scout the map to see where you want to set up. Find a location, maybe if you're playing with friends that are near each other, but you don't want to if someone's set up here, you don't want to set up here. You're definitely encroaching in their area unless you say to them, hey, can I set up right next to you? Or hey, do you want to work together? And then that type of is on a public server, don't do that or you'll get kicked off servers if you try to start doing stuff where if you grief things or steal things, because you don't have to have, like I could have a stockpile out here. You have an honor system. If you know it's someone's stockpile, don't go and take stuff from it. Even if you're playing with friends, unless you ask and they say yes, just don't do that. It's just honor system with a game like this. It goes a long way. So anyway, when you first load the game up, the first thing I would do is I would look at the map and say, okay, I want to do mining. I want to do mining, and then I want to get into doing smelting and also doing mortaring, which would be masonry. So those are 3 stars that I want to take. So a good place to start is going to be right here. You have sand to make your mortar from your sand, your mortar's like sand from mortared sand. You have lots underneath this. This is sandstone here. You make mortar stone from sandstone. You dig down 15, 20 blocks deep. You're going to find iron, which eventually get into smelting, etc., etc. So if you want to do that, go to the desert. Fine, that's where you want to go. If you want to do woodworking, find a place that has good amount of trees, like in here, a good amount of area where you could terraform to make tree plantations, because trust me, you will need them as you level up and as the game goes on. If you want to be a gatherer, it doesn't really matter where you set up, but set up somewhere that's kind of maybe close to where a cook is. Say if your friend is cooking down here, set up here maybe, because you're going to be doing a lot of running around, and also you're going to be doing a lot of planting, which is where the world layers come into play. Depending on what you are wanting to plant, you say, I want to plant beets. Well, where do beets grow? Well, they grow best along here they grow well. Over here would be the best spot ever to grow beets. So what you want to do is you want to take, again, this is a public server, you want to take one of your claim flags or one of your claims, you want to go over here to the dead center of this white, and you want to place a claim down here. That means you can plant your beets here, get the best yield from it, and no one can steal them from you. Again, if you're on a server, a public server like that. If you want to go a different route and you want to, how can I get off of that? If you want to go a different, like butchering and hunting, well, it doesn't really matter where you set up, honestly. It doesn't matter. But in the beginning, you still are going to need wood, you're going to need stone, and you're going to need plant fibers. You're going to need all those things. Wood can be found with any tree. any rock can be found with any sort of outcrop rock, or you just dig down a few blocks depending where you are. You're going to hit rock or you're going to hit stone, etc. And plant fibers, I already explained how you get that from, or wood fibers, which is a plant fiber tag, etc., etc. So the first thing I would do, figure out what profession you want to do. Maybe wait a bit, see what your other friends are taking, and then choose one that complements them. Or you say, you know what, I want to do my own thing. I want to be a carpenter. I want to hew my own boards. I want to make my own hewn logs. I want to make my own wood boards. I want to do my own carpentry, which would be your next star. I want to do carpentry. I want to make all the furniture, ice boxes, and sell that to the community. Then do that. But you have to have a plan in place. Don't just run in and just set up anywhere, because you're going to be like, I'm set up totally in the wrong spot for what I want to do. Second thing is, I would run around and gather not tons of food, but if you're planning on playing, say 2, 3, 4 hours to start, gather as much stuff as you want to run around, get a variety of things, make a campfire, as I said, cook the food, see what tastes good for you. Things that taste horrible, don't eat anymore, because it will just reduce your bonuses. Then once you find a spot, you find what skill you want to initially take, set up your camp. And then go right into, as I explained here, we got a new star because this is no collab. Go into here. The first thing you want to make is one of each of these. You want to make a tool bench, a workbench, and a campfire. Campfire, you can start cooking the initial food. You're going to get tomatoes and raw fish. You'll get 20 of each to start off with. So technically, you wouldn't have to run around and gather other food if you don't really want to. I still highly advise at least getting 3 or 4 or 5 different things just to have a balanced diet. The more balance you can have in the beginning, the better you're going to have it. So again, make these 3 things. Tool bench, where you can start making tools that aren't provided for you, like a scythe, which will help you get plant fibers, or even you can repair your tools at a tool bench. Eventually your tools will break, and then you have to repair them at a tool bench. And a workbench basically gives you the ability to build all these things here that I showed you already. Some of these things are decorative, like construction posts, carpentry table, eventually another campfire, boards for various things, doors. You can just go through these. Stockpiles are a big thing. I'd work on stockpiles, storage chests, because initially this is all the storage you have. You have this little bit, these 8, 10 slots, 2, 4, 6, 10 slots, and you have a tiny stockpile which holds virtually nothing, and you have a campfire, obviously your fuel source. And then start building. You want to have your 5 by 5 by 4, including the roof, built. You don't have to have a floor to be able to put a research table in there, but have a floor if you want to. But you need to have that 25 meters cubed. And again, you don't want to try to get exact 25, because that'll just be silly. Just pick a round number that's above that. You can do like a 3 by 3 by 3 or 4 by 4 by 4, etc., etc., etc. And then start researching what you want to research as you go along. Again, your first star is going to come immediately. Your second star may take a few bit, but depending on the collaboration, or also depending on your food score, as I just said, is you may be able to get it within your first day of playing, within a few hours, maybe 2 hours, 3, 4 hours, 4 hours if you have a good food score. And then you can pick your second star, and then you're off to the races. Go carpentry, go mining. You don't want to go smelting right away, because you don't want to do smelting right away. You go into masonry, etc., etc., etc. So have a plan, execute the plan, and then you'll have a good jump start here. Anyway, guys, I think I rambled on enough here. I covered basically everything you want to do within the first hour to 2 to 3 hours of your game. Is you find a good spot to set up, choose what professions you want to choose before you settle, gather crops as you go along, build a workbench, build a tool bench, build a campfire, get food cooking, figure out what is tasty for your character and what's not. Then maybe even write it down, make a list of what you want to make yourself. Choose your profession. Your first star should either go into gathering, hunting, mining, logging. Don't try to advance to get to masonry first or carpentry first. Is it doable? Yes. Is it worth it? I don't know. Also, if you're first starting the game as well, do the in-game tutorial. You could take things that I showed you here and implement that into the in-game tutorial, which is obviously very good as well. It covers probably some things that I didn't cover, and I probably cover some things that it didn't cover in this basic guide. And then once you can start having a base set up and have your tent set up, and then start researching scrolls. And the scrolls, any scroll you research and you learn, quote unquote learn, you're not using a star for it, you're just learning the skill. You're not taking skill, you're learning it. Gives you, each one will give you 5 claim flags, or 5 claim papers, which will allow you to expand your area. Basically, you can lock in stuff, you can make it safe so no one can grief you, no one can take your things. And also, when you start getting into housing score, you have to own the land that's underneath your building, or your housing score will not take effect because you are technically not a resident there. Again, so we can go into that a lot more detail later on. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this bit of a jumpstart tutorial on how to get started with Eco, please consider leaving me a like as well as an additional comment. Much appreciated. And if you are enjoying the other Eco videos or anything else on my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And yeah, I have a lot of Eco content coming out. At the time of the recording of this video, I will be starting a new server in about a couple days. Again, at the time of recording of the video, I'm also on another Eco server, which if you're watching my other videos, you're going to see that, and you can see kind of what you can get up to with Eco. It's a lovely game. It's an imaginary game. You can basically build anything you want. You can do anything you want, and first and foremost, just have fun with it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next Eco tutorial. Take care now.